evening, hello and welcome to Plain Speak. I'm Anusha, Soni. A horrific crime has been reported from Dumka in Jharkhand. A 19-year-old girl was set ablaze by her jilted stalker on the 23rd of August. The girl, unfortunately, has succumbed to her burn injuries. While the accused in the case, Shahrukh, and his accomplice have been arrested, the gruesome incident once again reminds us of the rampant violence that women face in our society. Here's what that makes matter worse. The victim had to travel about 250 kilometers to get basic treatment. At the local hospital nearby, she was given nothing but saline bottles, while she had about at least 45% burn injuries. There are communal overtones to this entire story. You have the Union Minister, Giriraj Singh, who's called this hate crime a result of politics of appeasement. Various right-wing groups are demanding death penalty for the murderer. The victim, before her death, had given a statement in which she narrates how she was being hounded by the accused. Now, this statement alone should be good enough to nail the culprits in a court of law. Now, we're also getting you the reactions which have come in on the story, the statement of the victim which has really come in. Let's begin by first hearing what the girl said in this very crucial statement that she gave before her death. Listen.
वो हमको धमकी दे रहा था कि तुम मिलो, नहीं मिल रहे थे, तो इसलिए हम फिर धमकी दिया, फिर आके आग जला के कर दिया 10 से 15 दिन से। कहता था तुम बात करो, मिलो हमसे और शादी करो, नहीं तो तुमको मार देंगे, धमकी देता था।
You heard the victim. She was getting repeated threats from that stalker. We're playing out these visuals for you. This is the man. His name is Shahrukh. One of his other accomplices has also been arrested. He was seen smiling and walking with much pride while he was being arrested by the police authorities. Now, this accused Shahrukh, after being arrested, was smiling. There was no sign of remorse or at least shame which should be visible in a person. This takes us to another question. While our judiciary, our judicial system insists on reform, these images show how there is a lacuna, there's a gap, and the present system has failed at many levels. We don't know whether the trial will be a speedy one. We don't know whether the long, slow and tardy judicial system will become a punishment for the victim's family. Exploiting the weaknesses and technicalities of the law, often men involved in such heinous crimes like hate crimes or even acid attacks have been successful in securing bails from court of law. Our processes have become punishment, and the society at large has failed to create deterrence for men who indulge in such crimes. And we all know that this is not a standalone incident. Two recent examples that I want to cite. On the 25th of August 2022, a 16-year-old girl was on her way to school when she was shot by her stalker. In March, a man killed a minor girl after she refused her advances. These two had met on Instagram. We didn't speak much about these instances in the public domain. However, these instances remind us that crimes like these are not far and few, but they're rampant. Let's also take an overall perspective about crime against women in the state of Jharkhand. Let's have a look at these numbers. 2022, about 1,794 cases reported. 2021, 1,617. And 2022, the data is still emerging, 666 so far. These pertain to rape cases. Let's also look at cases pertaining to dowry deaths. These are important indices to watch out for when we look at crime against women. 2020, 273, 21, 278, 79 till May. Now, while these figures in themselves are very low, if you look at a comparative analysis, if you look at the NCRB data compared to various other states, Jharkhand has much lower rate of crime. Now, there can be two factors which are responsible for it. One, the low reporting of crime, and secondly, the fact that it's a tribal state. So often the reach of judiciary, the reach of police administration is much low. That's the key question we asked tonight. 19-year-old has been burnt alive. And is this the case which is fit for the rarest of rare? Top legal voices like Abhishek Manu Singh, we had tweeted out that perhaps this is one case where one should look at this entire incident and talk about the rarest of rare. Death penalty should be an example that should be set here. Not any kind of bail or any kind of remission that accused or the convicts in cases like these really deserve. Now, through the course of the day, we had various political reactions coming in on the story, including the Chief Minister, who assured proper action. We had the opposition that has cornered the government over this entire issue. Listen in to the reactions on the story.
घटना हुई है, ये घटना निश्चित रूप से काफी हृदय विदारक है और इसमें कानून अपना काम कर रहा है।
पॉपुलर फ्रंट ऑफ इंडिया जो हमने बैंड किया था, इस सरकार आने के बाद इस जिहादी ताकतें काफी सक्रिय हुई है और कहीं न कहीं इस घटना में भी कहीं पीएफआई का तो हाथ नहीं है। इसकी जांच करें एसआईटी बनाकर।
जिसका निर्माण जनजाति समुदाय के उत्थान के लिए हुआ था, जनजाति कल्याण के लिए इस राज्य को अलग से बनाया गया था, वो जो राज्य है अब वो जिहादियों का राज्य बनता चला जा रहा है।
ये सोची समझी रणनीति के तहत हुआ है, ये लव जिहाद है। या तो आओ मेरे साथ शादी करो वरना जला दिए जाओगे।
And we have a statement coming in from the Jharkhand governor, Ramesh Bais, who has spoken to the Director General of Police and expressed displeasure over the worsening law and order situation in the state. That's the statement coming in from governor, who has taken cognizance and note of this entire incident, also sought a report from the top officials. This only points out to the shockwave that this entire incident has thrown in the state of Jharkhand, with the opposition ramping up its pressure on the government. There are demands that there should be much higher compensation, about 10 lakh, which has been given by the government so far. The opposition says the compensation should be up to 1 crore rupees. And also the larger political angle, the communal angle which is being spoken of, that there is politics of appeasement which is responsible for crimes like these. We have seen multiple instances where a man or a woman have been killed by either side for engaging or for being a part of a love relationship with a person of another community. These kind of instances have always thrown in some very, very uncomfortable and difficult questions. My colleague Saurav is with us on the broadcast. Saurav, give us more context about the statement from the governor.
For past 1 week, governor has been in the light in Jharkhand because of the decision that has to be made public about Hemant Soren's disqualification is still not made public. So all the national media are in Ranchi waiting for the decision. Now today, when Ankita's death was reported from Rajendra Institute of Medical Sciences, the governor took cognizance of it. He had called the chief secretary and the DGP of the state, and when DGP went there, he was actually angry about the law and order situation, which was getting worse in the state, and he made categorically, he said that there are several instances about law and order which are is a matter of concern, and it has to be improved. So he also said that these kinds of incidents are not meant for the society, and this has to be improved, and that this was a kind of a bit of warning to the DGP by the governor about the law and order situation. Moreover, the governor has issued a check of 2 lakh as a compensation to the victim from his discretionary fund. So the governor has taken this step boldly and has summoned the DGP about the law and order situation in Jharkhand right now.
All right. Thank you, Saurav, for getting us all the details. The interference and the attention of the governor only points out to how serious this entire crime is. And of course it is. We should not treat these as matters or news stories that form a part of our daily news dose, and they need to be taken very, very seriously. Joining us on the broadcast is our full panel of guests. We'll ask this question about, is this the fit case for the rarest of rare? Joining us on the broadcast is Charu Pragya. She's a spokesperson for the BJP. We have Shilpa Neha Tikri, who's from the Congress party, a spokesperson for them. Dr. Mahua Majri, who's an MP for Rajya Sabha from JMM, is also joining us on the broadcast. And Nirmal Kaur, who's the former IPS officer, is also with us on the show. Thank you all for joining us on the broadcast. Charu, I'm coming to you first. Various questions that the opposition parties have raised. There are top voices from the BJP which are also saying that somewhere the politics of appeasement is responsible for an incident like this. Can you substantiate more on that? Because your political opponents will say you are simply politicizing and communalizing a case which is merely violence against women.
And Anusha, the fact is that unfortunately that is what this has been disguised as for the longest time, and that is why instances like this continue to occur. across the country. Now, this is not an expression of love that you propose to a girl, and then if she does not agree to be with you, you treat her that brutally. This time it was burning her. Many a times it is rape, it is gang rape,
Charu,
it is horrific.
I really apologize. I have to interrupt you there. Mr. Raghuvar Das is joining us on the broadcast. He is the former Chief Minister for the state of Jharkhand. He is with us on the show. सर बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमसे बात करने के लिए। एक बहुत ही दुखद घटना हुई है झारखंड में। हम सभी को दुख है उस लड़की के साथ जो भी हुआ, अंकिता के साथ जो भी हुआ। क्या ऐसा था जो झारखंड सरकार को करना चाहिए था कि इस तरह की दुखद घटना ना हो, और कैसे हम उस लड़की के परिवार को पूरी तरह से इंसाफ दिला सकते हैं?
नहीं, निश्चित रूप से जो घटना घटी है झारखंड को शर्मसार करने वाली घटना है, बहुत ही दुखद घटना जैसे आपने कही। देखिए, राज्य सरकार माननीय हेमंत सोरेन की गद्दी में बैठने के साथ ही झारखंड में जो जिहादी मानसिकता के लोग काफी सक्रिय हुए और लव जिहादी के नाम पर झारखंड में आए दिन इस तरह की कुछ ना कुछ घटना होते रहती। उसी के परिणाम स्वरूप हम सब ने देखा कि एक सिरफिरा किस प्रकार एक नाबालिग 17 वर्ष की बच्ची जो 12वीं क्लास की छात्रा थी, उसके खिड़की में खुल तेजाब पेट्रोल फेंककर आग लगाना, और जिस तरह गिरफ्तारी के बाद भी निर्लज होकर जिस तरह सांस से चलना, ये दर्शाता है कि जो राज्य सरकार हमारे झारखंड में है, ये वोट बैंक और तुष्टीकरण के कारण हमारी झारखंड की बेटी अंकिता उसकी भेंट चढ़ गई। क्योंकि ये घटना भोर में 4 बजे हुई थी। आज उसके सुबह पिताजी ने फोन की थी हमें और सारी घटना की जानकारी दी, और उन्होंने कहा कि सर एक बार आप आइए। हमने कहा मेरी थोड़ी तबीयत खराब है, 1-2 दिनों में आऊंगा। तो भोर में 4 बजे घटना हुई। 5 बजे उनके पिताजी ने अपनी बेटी को तड़पते हुए फूलो झानो दुमका हॉस्पिटल में ले गई
जी।
लेकिन वहां इलाज में भी लापरवाही बरती गई। सिर्फ 12 बोतल पानी चढ़ाया गया और तैसे तैसे मलहम लगाकर कहा कि आप रेफर रेम्स ले जाओ। अगर उसी समय राज्य सरकार थोड़ी भी संवेदनशील होती तो एयर बस करके सरकारी खर्च पे उसी को अगर दिल्ली भेज दिया जाता तो आज हमारी बच्ची जीवित रहती।
जी बिल्कुल, इसी तरीके की सक्रियता हमने देश में देखी थी जब निर्भया का कांड हुआ था, और निर्भया को हर तरीके का ट्रीटमेंट दिया गया। हर उस लड़की के साथ जिसके साथ ये हादसा होता है, इस तरह का ट्रीटमेंट उसको मिलना चाहिए, बेहतर से बेहतर। 2 सवाल है मेरे आपसे रघुवर दास जी। हम इस पूरे वाक्य को तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति क्यों समझें? क्या वजह है कि ये तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति है? एक सवाल जो आपके राजनीतिक प्रतिद्वंदी भी आप पर उठाएंगे, वो ये उठाएंगे कि कहीं ना कहीं आप इस पूरे मुद्दे का राजनीतिकरण कर रहे हैं अपने राजनीतिक फायदे के लिए। इसका जवाब आपसे चाहूंगी।
नहीं मैडम, देखिए आज से 1.5-2 महीना पहले नमाज पढ़ने के क्रम में दंगा हुई थी। एक अभियुक्त नदीम को गोली लगी थी। राज्य सरकार ने तुरंत सरकारी खर्च पर एयर एम्बुलेंस कर उन्हें दिल्ली में इलाज कराया। तो सरकार किसी एक वर्ग एक संप्रदाय की नहीं होती। जब इतनी बड़ी घटना हो गई थी, और साधारण घटना नहीं थी, एक खास समुदाय के लड़के के द्वारा जबरदस्ती उस लड़की के साथ इस तरह का व्यवहार करना, तो राज्य सरकार क्या कर्तव्य नहीं था? सरकार को विभेद नहीं करना चाहिए। प्रकट होती है इनके जब वोट बैंक के पर कोई आफत आता है तो उनकी ये सुध लेती है, लेकिन बहुसंख्यक समाज के साथ अगर कोई घटना घटती है तो आप लापरवाही बरते हैं। और सबसे बड़ा, मुख्यमंत्री जी आज मुंह खोले, घटना को 6-7 दिन हो गए। मुख्यमंत्री जी का वो विधानसभा क्षेत्र है, वहां के निवासी हैं, संथाल परगना, झारखंड मुक्ति मोर्चा, शिबू सोरेन, इनके पूरे परिवार का राजनीतिक वो चारागाह है, आर्थिक चारागाह है। अब जिस आप रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, आपके भाई रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, बगल में आपकी भाभी रिप्रेजेंट करती है, और उस क्षेत्र से एक बेटी के साथ इस तरह हृदय विदारक घटना पर आप 7 दिन के बाद आज मुंह खोल रहे हैं। और आप 3-4 दिन तक लगातार आप पिकनिक मना रहे हैं, हंसी मजाक कर रहे हैं। मुख्यमंत्री एक संवैधानिक पद पर बैठा व्यक्ति सीटी बजा रहा है और ये जरूरत नहीं महसूस हुई, ये बगल में रिम्स है, हम जाके कोई भी सत्तारूढ़ दल का एक विधायक या मंत्री कोई जाके देख सकता। आज तक दुमका में न झारखंड मुक्ति मोर्चा का एक सामान्य कार्यकर्ता अभी उस पिता के पास सांत्वना देने के लिए गया है। ये साफ दर्शाता है कि ये वोट बैंक की राजनीति के तहत, तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति के तहत सरकार उतना ही काम करती है जितना उनका वोट सुरक्षित।
एक और सवाल मैं जानती हूँ, आपके पास समय सीमित है। पीड़िता के परिवार ने अभी तक आपको क्या बोला है? वो किस तरह की मदद है जो सरकार से चाहते हैं? और एक और बात आपने मेंशन किया, आपने कहा कि बहुत सारी ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं जैसे पीएफआई, आपने लव जिहाद शब्द का भी उपयोग किया। ये सारी जो बातें हैं, इनका क्या कोई फैक्चुअल बेसिस है या कोई ऐसे सबूत हैं जिनके बेसिस पे हम कह सकते हैं कि इस तरह की कोई लार्जर कंस्पिरेसी या बड़ी रणनीति पूरे प्रदेश में चल रही है?
जी देखिए, जब मेरी सरकार थी तो इसी पाकुड़ में पीएफआई के लोग ने राष्ट्र विरोधी गतिविधियां कर रही थी, तो हमने बैंड लगाया था। लेकिन ये सरकार आने के बाद पीएफआई के लोग सक्रिय हो गए। अभी आपने देखा होगा 1 महीने के अंदर संथाल परगना के जितने मुस्लिम बहुसंख्यक स्कूल में है, उस स्कूल में शुक्रवार को छुट्टी घोषित, सरकारी स्कूल में जी। कि आप सब लोग ने भी टीवी में इसको दिखाने का काम किया था। और जिस तरह ये अभियुक्त इतनी बड़ी घटना करने के बाद जिस तरह हंसता हुआ जा रहा, तो कहीं ना कहीं ये पीएफआई का एक गिरोह है, क्योंकि वहां हमारा पाकुड़ से मालदा और मुर्शिदाबाद सटा हुआ है और बड़ी संख्या में बांग्लादेशी मुसलमान, रोनिया मुसलमान घुसकर हमारे भोले भाले आदिवासी बच्चियों के साथ शादी करके न सिर्फ संथाल परगना का डेमोग्राफी खराब कर रहा, बल्कि जमीन का भी जिहादी कर रहा। हजारों एकड़ जमीन जी आज बांग्लादेशी मुसलमान के कब्जे में है।
रघुवर जी, मैं पूरी उम्मीद करती हूँ इस देश का एक नागरिक होने के नाते कि आपकी पूरी राजनीति और जिस भी तरह के सवाल आप उठा रहे हैं उससे पीड़िता के परिवार को मदद मिले, उन्हें से ज्यादा राशि मिल सके सरकार से, और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज ये पूरा ट्रायल एक स्पीडी ट्रायल हो, जल्द से जल्द न्याय मिले और ये जो अक्यूज्ड हैं ये किसी भी तरीके के दावपेच का, कानूनी दावपेच का फायदा ना उठा पाए। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। थैंक यू सो मच।
धन्यवाद। लेकिन ध्यान में भी रखना है कोई इस तरह की पुनरावृत्ति ना हो घटना।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल रघुवर दास जी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमसे बात करने के लिए।
धन्यवाद।
I go back to my guests, Charu Pragya, Shilpa Neha Tikri, Dr. Mahua Maiji and Nirmal Kaur continue to be with us on the broadcast. Charu, I'll just come back to you. But I have a lot of questions, Dr. Mahua, coming to you. There's a pertinent point that the BJP is raising. Why did it take more than 6 to 7 days for the Chief Minister to make a statement on this entire issue? Why none of the local leaders from the JMM or from your party bothered to visit the victim? Third, and the most important point, the local primary healthcare center or the local hospital was unable to give any sort of treatment to the victim. Shouldn't your government must have stepped in at that point in time?
मैं एक एक करके आपके सवालों का जवाब देना चाहूंगी।
जी महुआ जी।
पहला सवाल, पहले तो सबसे पहले मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि हम सभी को बहुत दुख है अंकिता के साथ जो कुछ भी हुआ, उसकी हम घोर निंदा करते हैं। ऐसा कभी नहीं होना चाहिए। और आपको मैं बता दूं कि जिसने इस घटना को अंजाम दिया है वो एक विक्षिप्त या सिफिरा टाइप का लड़का था। अगर वह स्वस्थ होता तो निश्चित रूप से जिसे वो प्यार करता है उसके साथ इस तरह का बर्ताव कभी भी नहीं करता। और मैं दूसरी बात ये कहना चाहूंगी कि हमारी सरकार पूरी तरह से उस परिवार के साथ है। भाजपा शुरू से ही इस मामले को राजनीतिक रंग दे रही है। भाजपा धर्म के नाम पर हमारे स्टेट में लगातार लोगों को आपस में लड़ाने का काम करती है। आपको सबसे पहले मैं ये बताना चाहूंगी कि पिछली सरकार में अभी माननीय पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री रघुवर दास जी आए थे और उन्होंने बहुत सारी बातें हमारी सरकार के खिलाफ कही है। तो उनके समय की एक घटना मैं बताना चाहूंगी कि माननीय मंत्री जयंत सिन्हा जी जो भाजपा के मंत्री रहे हैं, उन्होंने मॉब लिंचिंग के दोषियों को जो वहां जेल से छूट कर आए थे,
और
उन्होंने
महुआ जी,
सामूहिक रूप से
उनकी
उन्हें माला
उनकी भी
पहनाकर
निंदा की गई
सम्मानित
थी,
किया था।
उनको
और ये
भी
बातें
बोला
आप
गया
लोगों
था
ने
कि
मीडिया
आपने
में
जो
दिखाई
किया है
थी।
वो गलत किया है।
पिछली
लेकिन
सरकार में
लेकिन
मॉब लिंचिंग की
लेकिन
घटनाएं बहुत
लेकिन
अधिक थी।
लेकिन मैं आज
जी,
आपसे कुछ सीधे
मैंने
सवाल
ये
पूछ रही हूँ महुआ जी।
सुनिए, नहीं,
जी बोलिए
मैं
बोलिए
सीधे
महुआ
सवाल
जी।
का ही जवाब देना चाहूंगी।
हम्म
मैं पहले सबसे पहली बात कि अगर अगर लड़की के पिता ने माननीय रघुवर दास जी से मदद मांगी थी
हम्म
जिस दिन घटना हुई उसके 1-2 घंटे के बाद,
हम्म
तो क्या भाजपा के माननीय मुख्यमंत्री रहने के कारण क्या वो किसी भी व्यक्ति को फोन करके या अपने किसी कार्यकर्ता को या किसी सरकारी अधिकारी को अगर वो एक फोन भी कर देते कि तुरंत उस लड़की को लेके रांची या कहीं भेजा जाए, तो क्या वो नहीं आते? हम लोग खुद करते हैं, हम मुख्यमंत्री नहीं रहे हैं, लेकिन जब भी कोई पीड़िता या पीड़ित रात के 1 बजे 2 बजे भी हमें फोन करता है, तो चाहे किसी की भी सरकार रहे, हम लोग फोन करके तुरंत उनकी मदद करते हैं। हम बिहार बीमारी का बहाना नहीं बनाते, क्योंकि वो यहाँ पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री रह चुके हैं। पूरे प्रदेश
महुआ
में
जी,
भाजपा के हजारों कार्यकर्ता
मुझे
हैं।
माफ करिए,
वो
मैं आपको रोक रही
कार्यकर्ता
हूँ।
उसको
आपके
कहा
आपके
थे,
फ्रेम
जो
में
आज
थोड़ी सी
यहाँ
दिक्कत
पर
आ रही है।
विरोध
माई टीम
प्रदर्शन
इज जस्ट
करने
गोइंग
के
टू
लिए
फिक्स योर
जुलूस
फ्रेम।
निकल कर आए हैं। क्या ये सिर्फ हमारे पार्टी का ही काम है कि उस पीड़िता को न्याय दिलाया जाए? और दूसरी बात कि हमारे हमारी सरकार की तरफ से वहां जाने या न जाने की जो बात है, सरकार पूरी तरह से गंभीर है। तभी आपको पता होना चाहिए कि घटना घटित होने के 5 से 6 घंटे के अंदर ही उस जो अपराधी था उसको अरेस्ट कर लिया गया है। ये हमारे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी के आदेश से
क्या
हुआ है।
क्या
वहाँ
कोई
के
भी
माननीय
झारखंड
विधायक
मुक्ति
बसंत सिंह जी के
मोर्चे
आदेश
का
से हुआ है।
नेता
देखो,
गया
इतना
और
prompt
पीड़िता से
लोग नहीं
मिला?
होते हैं।
क्या मुख्यमंत्री ने इस पर कोई भी बयान दिया? क्या आपके परिवार आपकी पार्टी से कोई भी ऐसे लोग थे जो परिवार से मिलने गए? ये सारे तो बड़े जायज सवाल है ना।
हम लोग प्रदर्शन पर विश्वास नहीं करते हैं। अगर यहाँ पर ऐसे मामलों में अक्सर देखा जाता है कि इसे एक राजनीतिक मुद्दा बना दिया जाता है, धार्मिक मुद्दा बना दिया जाता है, दंगे फसाद भड़काने का काम किया जाता है।
लेकिन मैंने अभी आपसे ऐसा कोई भी सवाल नहीं पूछा। मैंने आपसे सिर्फ वो सवाल पूछे जो किसी भी सरकार की, किसी भी राज्य की चुनी हुई सरकार से पूछे जाने चाहिए कि आपने पीड़िता के परिवार के लिए क्या किया, आपकी पार्टी के नेताओं ने पीड़िता के परिवार के लिए क्या किया, मुख्यमंत्री ने बयान क्यों नहीं दिया? ये सारे सवाल तो आपको जवाब देना भी पड़ेगा।
जिसकी मांग भाजपा ने ही की थी और पीड़ित परिवार के साथ है हमारी सरकार। दोषियों को कड़ी से कड़ी सजा देने के लिए उन्होंने कहा है कि फास्ट ट्रैक कोर्ट के माध्यम से दोषी को सजा देनी चाहिए। और सबसे पहली बात कि इस तरह के जो क्रिमिनल्स होते हैं, इस तरह के जो दोषी होते हैं, वो किसी मजहब के नहीं होते हैं, वो कोई भी हो सकता है। निर्भया कांड के समय में भी जो घटनाएं हुई थी वो किसी हिंदू या मुस्लिम वो नहीं था।
देखिए, बीजेपी का कहना है, और रघुवर दास जी थे, बहुत सारे दूसरे बीजेपी के भी ऐसे नेता हैं जिनका कहना है कि एक लार्जर डिजाइन है, एक बड़ी रणनीति के तहत, एक साजिश के तहत ये सारी चीजें की जा रही हैं। चारू प्रज्ञा, कमिंग टू यू, सॉरी यू वर इंटरप्टेड अर्लियर, बट द क्वेश्चन दैट आई वांट टू आस्क यू इज दैट इज देयर एनी सब्सटैंशियल बेसिस फॉर बीजेपी एंड इट्स लीडर्स टू मेक assertions like this?
So, Anusha, I was listening to the JMM spokesperson and she's an honorable member of parliament. I am going to do my best to be polite, but I think she's sitting here with her eyes closed, with her ears closed. If she pretends that there is no religious angle to this, Jharkhand has been riddled with religious angles since their government came into power. I can take numerous examples, but let me only take one for now and come back to discuss the child we have lost, and I'm calling her a child. She was at least 4 years away from marriageable age, and this man had the courage and he was allowed to be in a position where he ended her life. She was 4 years away from marriage. She could not even legally marry till the age of 21. But the important thing is, do you remember how under JNN and Congress government, schools' names have been changed to Urdu schools. Schools actually started giving weekly offs on Fridays, and Jharkhand government knew about it. Then our MLA flagged them off it. That is when they sent out a letter, and now they are pretending they are fixing it. The situation in Jharkhand is such that they cannot win elections if they don't side with these kind of antisocial elements. It's well and good to come on television and do some political posturing.
In this case, the accused was arrested in less than 4 to 5
I
hours.
wanted to come to that. And Anusha, when I saw visuals of that man being arrested, he actually looked like he was being given a reward. उसको स्टेज पे बुला के उसको मेडल पहनाया जा रहा है. That is how that man looked. And is that because of the way the police treated him? He had any reason to believe that he will be let off scot-free? Will he be bailed out? Will he be called mentally unstable, and then his family background will be discussed and he will be allowed to roam the streets of that state again? And God knows, attack how many other women? And the sad thing is, when an incident like this happens, there is a lot of always hiding the identity of the Muslim culprits part. So you'll always just say, I've read so many articles over the last few days. Nobody wants to address the fact that this was a Muslim man who targeted a little Hindu girl, and when she did not agree to be with him, he thought whatever he does is allowed because his religion allows it, because according to them, if she agrees to marry him and become a Muslim, it's all well and good, but if she doesn't, she deserves to die, and that thought process is what we are fighting against.
But before I go to other guests, Charu, a short question from you. Haven't we seen, unfortunately in this country, many instances where maybe the boy and girl are from the same religion or the same community, but if the girl refuses the advances of a man, they resort to such criminal tactics? What draws the caveat that this is communal, this is motivated by religion, and this is simply a crime against women? There is no theoretical or psychological yardstick that we can apply.
So on a very basic level, I do agree with you. Crime against women have to be approached with that angle and direction. But at the same time, there has been a lot of calculated crime against women of a certain community by men of a certain minority community, and we cannot hide away from it. One of the reasons why the love jihad law is cropping up in so many states in our country, that's the reason, and Jharkhand also needs to come up with that law. Anyways on shaky ground politically. Maybe they should take some corrective measures.
I want to bring in Shilpa Neha Tikri and Nirmal Kaur also into the discussion. Shilpa ji, coming to you. As a woman, do you think what the state government did was enough, or something more should have been done? There are various questions that BJP is raising. I will come to the communal angle part of it later. But shouldn't more help have been accorded to the victim's family? Had she been given timely treatment and more sensitive approach by the state authorities, perhaps she would be alive today.
Anushka, first of all, this is my first time in CNN, so I would like to thank you for having me here. And whatever happened with Ankita was absolutely a heinous crime. Whatever political debate this might be, but I by no means supports anything, any activity as such, any crime as such. And I completely feel for the family what happened with her. On the other hand, that you asked me, right, if the government could have done anything more. See, Anushka, what I would like to bring to your notice is that immediately after the issue was brought up to the government, all kind of financial help was provided to her. But on the same hand, when she was brought to the hospital, and I've spoken to the doctors myself, she was, Ankita had endured about 65% of burn, which is, so 30% is a fatal mark. And she had already endured 65%. What I'm trying to say is that she was extremely critical, in a very critical condition is when she was brought to the hospital. But immediately directions were given to the administration to take immediate action, which is why the culprit was caught within 5 hours. And Charu is right, that man was smiling and laughing, which absolutely shows that how troubled he is from the mind.
मगर एक और सवाल है शिल्पा जी, जो रघुवर दास जी भी पूछ रहे थे कुछ समय पहले. There's one more question that he was asking, that did anyone from your alliance partner or from the Congress party try and reach out to the victim's family? If you're in politics, you are there for public service, at least in theory, at least according to the constitutional ideals. And if a gruesome, heinous crime of this nature has happened, then the ruling government of the day, then the party members should make an effort and reach out to victims. Did Congress or JMM make that effort?
Look, Anushka, on the day this crime was conducted, had happened, immediate help was sent to the girl, and she was brought to the hospital, and all of that was happening. But what you are asking me is that if anyone reached out to her in person, and I will say that nobody had gone to her, and that is why I would like to give a reason for that. Why you also are aware of what is happening in the Jharkhand right now, the political turmoil that has been happening. And we have been constantly being asked to report to the CM's house, and all of this had been happening.
Shilpa,
but at the same time,
I will fail in my duty as a journalist if I take that explanation from you. Even if you're trying to save your government, even if your government is in a huddle.
No, Anushka, let me complete. See, I'm not trying to scare
with
my
utmost
government.
respect,
okay? I'm not trying. I'm just trying to tell you the truth. I'm just trying to tell you the truth, because nobody will tell you. People will ask you a lot of questions and they'll raise a lot of questions on the current government, but nobody is going to say that the convict was
Okay, Shilpa, I do think that
five
irrespective of however bigger of a crisis a government is managing, if there's a victim, which a case which is dominating headlines, which has drawn public attention and is heinous, the authorities and more importantly the party members who are in power, the parties which are in power, should make an effort. Nirmal ji, I'm coming to you for having the last word. When you look at heinous crime like this, we have often spoken the need for speedy trial, good police investigation. In this case, the accused was arrested within few hours. There is also a damning statement that the victim has given before her death. Should that be enough to book the culprits who've been arrested in this case?
Yes, yes. You know, the dying declaration under Section 164 CRP.
Please, let her.
The dying declaration.
Yeah.
The dying declaration under Section 164 CRPC is a very, very strong piece of evidence. That is the only evidence which is admissible without any cross-examination. That's a highly, I think it's a shut and tight case, and she will definitely, I think it's a very speedy trial can be taking place. The only thing is he took just 1 minute to burn her up, sprinkle petrol and put a matchstick. And how many years will Ankita get justice? And how many levels of appeal will be there? What is going to happen? Meanwhile, he'll live on sarkari khana, sarkari accommodation, everything. And one more point I want to make is that if, the kind of shameless expression on his face, as if he was proud of it, that is, somewhere there is a social sanction to this behavior.
Yeah.
Because I've done a lot of work in Bengal, and in Bengal we saw that there are certain these fundamentalist kind of organizations that pay boys money and a motorcycle and everything to, kind of romantically engage girls and, spoil their, make them into some kind of sex slaves and work slaves. That I've seen happening. And, this has not been...
in your, I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I want to know this from you. In your experience, have you seen any larger design of what the BJP calls the love jihad angle? Is there any substantial basis to it?
BJP doesn't invent this word. It came from Kerala. The Christians said it. The Christian priest, the Christian community there is still saying it. I mean, the love jihad started in Kerala, I think, on a large scale. And it was not brought up by BJP in the first place. The Christians said it. They invented this word and they are still using it. If you go to Kerala and find lots of Christian fathers.
I'm short of time. Charu, 30 seconds to you. 30 seconds to you.
Very quickly. Yeah. While Nirmal ma'am was speaking, I also want to note one point. This boy was stalking this girl for days at end. She did not have enough confidence in Jharkhand police to go and make a complaint about it. And that speaks in a very low manner about the kind of work this police has been doing under the...
Point taken, Charu. Charu, Pragya, Shilpa Neha Tikri, Dr. Mahua Maji and Nirmal Kaur. Thank you everyone for joining us on the show. The purpose of this debate was to point out to the glaring lapses that perhaps happened from the side of the government that could have perhaps saved the life of this girl. We hope there is a speedy trial and the accused are not able to take any kind of advantage of technicalities of law. With that, we